And I'm back. Just had to turn off the fan. Welcome to Momentous Live, episode 13. For real this time. Last week was episode 12, but I said 13 because here at Momentous, we've discovered time travel. It's really exciting.
You just wanted to freak out the people with triskaidekaphobia.
Exactly. So they get a double dose.
Right.
Also, I turned off the fan, but luckily, I have my magic wristbands that have been in the freezer. I got these last summer for working with the hot laptop. Keeps your blood cold.
Yep.
I need those.
So it might get a little too cold though. So if I start making all sorts of typos in the chat, it's because my fingers don't work anymore.
You've gone into cryogenic storage.
Exactly. Hello, Gray Williams, Tasia Custodi, Will Silver. This is indeed Momentous Live episode 13, where today we're going to talk about iOS 14.6, fun new app Poparazzi, Microsoft Build Developers Conference, some gaming in a Tesla, IKEA smart home concept, and lots more. You guys ready?
We got a big show.
We got a big show.
A really big show.
Really big show. We want to give a shout out, a special thank you to Ged Smythe for filling in for Tasia last week, our newly ordained entertainment correspondent for Momentous. And then a couple weeks before him, also Tasia not showing up. I'm sensing a trend here. Jamie Reynolds. So we'll see who doesn't show up next time.
That'd be me. I'm piecing out to Camp Cove for a weekend. So I will not be joining you guys next week. But I'm going to be having a really great time around a campfire. So I'm excited about that.
We're going to use a series of tin cans and string between whoever we have and see if we can make this work without your expertise, Graham.
Yep. If I only had a heart.
You'll be roasting it over the campfire, I'm sure. So let's start with a little follow-up. Last week, three of us talked about Amazon potentially acquiring Mgm Studios, and it looks like the deal has indeed been done. We are, of course, ahead of the game here. $8.5 billion with a B. Amazon is acquiring Mgm Studios. Now, key thing that we discussed last week was, well, what does that mean for the future of the James Bond franchise, which MGM has the rights to? Because, as we know, the Broccoli family, which has been the caretakers of the Bond franchise for decades and decades, very protective, and there was some concern that they might not let Amazon do the sorts of things that Amazon might want to do, including additional movies, side stories, TV series, and so on. But one quote from Amazon is that they had, in the contract negotiations, they included assurances of continued artistic control. Any thoughts on this, Will?
Well, I mean, I think we covered a lot of this stuff about James Bond last week, and it is interesting that was added in because clearly there's just the two big forces there, and they feel a lot of connection to it. So I think it's interesting that that's in there because, I mean, there's definitely some feelings after Star Wars was bought by Disney that they were maybe churning out some movies. They were trying to have a movie every year. Some of the side movies, for example, Solo, the movie that no one really asked for, but they got anyways. So, I mean, I think it's interesting that it's in there. Clearly, like some of the things that we and other people were discussing last week about the Broccoli's sort of need for control of that certainly seems to be a factor in all of this, and they were able to work it out. I also think it's interesting because there really is a war of streaming services, right? And this is part of what Amazon is doing by buying them. I also have a hard time not remembering having flashbacks to when Gray, Tristan, and I worked at Future Shop, back when Future Shop was a thing, at the corporate office, writing content for them. Pour out a little for the homie. There was a war of iTunes clones at that time. So this gives me flashbacks. Bonfire is the big one that I remember that we had to push a lot in various articles and things. But even, does anyone remember Zune?
The guy who got a tattoo does.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's giving me a bit of flashbacks to that, but in some ways it's interesting that they work this out, and we'll see what happens.
Can I tell you the weird thing that I heard this week?
I'd love to hear it.
So
the weirder the better.
Amazon owned by Jeff Bezos, aka Dr. Evil, and who was his number one nemesis over the course of the last 4 years? The Oompa Loompa with the little hands, Mr. Trump. The outtakes from The Apprentice are owned by MGM.
Oh.
And there are numerous records saying that now Citizen Trump used the N-word, the C-word, many words where we just refer to them by the first initial. So they're bad.
November?
It'll be a cold November rain for Mr. Trump if these do come out. So it's interesting. Like, is it that Machiavellian? I'm going to pay $8.5 billion to get some outtakes to scupper this guy's political career that's probably already shot, but maybe isn't. So, we'll take one last railgun blast at it to make sure he's never in office again. Despite the fact that the folks who would vote for him are probably emboldened by the fact that he said these words. I don't know. But the fact remains that MGM does own these outtakes, and they now belong to Mr. Bezos, which is curious. I'm interested to see, like, maybe that's the streaming show. It's just, 6 hours of Trump making a fool of himself, apparently pooping himself on set. I don't know. It's been reported, so some people are saying it.
Don't spoil it for me, Graham.
Anyway.
Speaking of other types of memes, a bit more follow-up for us. Another NFT sale that I'm sure Tasia's really excited about, being the queen of NFTs on Momentous. Yes. The Charlie Bit My Finger, when there's a classic YouTube clip. I think is it the single most viewed video on YouTube? Does it still hold that title? It has just been sold as an NFT. How do you feel about this, Tasia?
I'm actually surprised it didn't sell for more. That was literally my first thought, was like, oh, that's reasonable, which is crazy now that I just think this is reasonable. Like, we've come to that point where I'm like, that's it? Because that video, like, kind of really changed YouTube. It kind of, people started realizing, hey, we can put the most random stuff here that's going to go viral. And like the whole virality thing took off on YouTube because of Charlie Bit My Finger. Like, I know I'm sounding dramatic, but like truly that is like a staple video.
What was a repository of human knowledge then became what it is now.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And to clarify for the mums at home, this was 2007, so very early in YouTube's history. They'd only been going for 18 months, 2 years at the time. It has been viewed more than 884 million times. So, and it sold this NFT, the non-fungible token, this asset existing on the blockchain. The NFT version sold for $760,000 US. And the fun thing about the stars of the NFT, the kids in there at the time, I believe one was 3 and one was just a 1-year-old at the time. They've gone on to make follow-up videos trying to cash in a little bit on that. So hopefully they'll be seeing some of the proceeds from this NFT sale, like we've talked about previously. The interesting thing is that some of these subjects of memes over the years are finally starting to benefit in some monetary way from their existence. I mean, hopefully they had AdSense turned on the YouTube channel over the last 14 years.
The follow-up to Charlie Bit My Finger was Charlie Pulled My Finger. It didn't do quite as well. So.
No, not nearly. So some new news this week. iOS 14.6 is out now, latest operating system for the iPhone. And it seems like just a month ago, and we had iOS 14.5, which introduced a whole bunch of things, including some cross-site tracking measures for us, and some face unlock, even if we have masks, using the Apple Watch on our wrists. Tasia, can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing in 14.6? Not quite as much new stuff I'd expect.
Not quite as much, but I feel like what they did is really interesting. things. So there is a new accessibility feature, which we all love accessibility here at Momentous. And so now from the unlock screen, you can unlock your phone with your voice, which is really handy accessibility feature for people. Some of the other things, if you have Apple Card, they've kind of expanded their, family sharing. So you can now add up to, there can be 5 of you. You have to be in the same family member group. And essentially their thought here is, your parents at home with kids, you want to help them build up their credit score, but you also want to monitor what they're doing. So the tricky thing here is you'd be giving these family members, the people in your group, access to the card, to your Apple Card. But the good thing is you can set spending limitations, and you can track and you can manage expenses across your group. So that's a really huge feature, actually, which, I don't have, do any of you have an Apple Card?
Well, we should have had a trigger warning there, because every time someone mentions Apple Card, it's like, not in Canada. Well, one of those physical, they're made of titanium, aren't they? The physical version?
They are, yeah.
Very, very lovely. And then, of course, you stick it in the app, and then you don't get to handle it.
Does it come personally from Steve Wozniak?
I've got an American Express, and I will actually frequently pull the card out just to use the tap on that instead of using it on the phone, because I feel fancy. I feel really fancy.
It feels
Graham,
fancy.
Graham, iOS 14.6 also has some new audio features in there that are a little bit controversial.
Are they?
Well, in terms of lossless, but is it lossless? But on which devices and not which? In addition to spatial audio and so and so. Can you decode that a little bit for us?
Yeah, there's nothing so pedantic as an audiophile. Hi-fi audio. The idea here is for decades, like literally going back to 2001, we've been hearing compressed music, right? MP3 compresses that music, a little bit of top end, a little bit of the bottom end, and it doesn't sound quite like the original recording. AAC, which was Apple's format in iTunes, did a little bit better. That 256 kilobit AAC was better than, in some cases, the 320 kilobit MP3. What we're looking at here is, just they're not true lossless files. There is some compression applied to them, but they are saying that there is a lossless spatial audio version coming. I haven't heard it yet. Now, here's the thing. I've actually done a test from Philips, their Golden Ears, to see if I could determine what I was listening to. I couldn't. There are a few people out there that are gifted. There was a fella when I was working for Pure Image who was designing a $10 million home, and I think like $1 million of that was going into his home theater. He had these audio clouds that were going on, and this guy literally could pick out these frequencies. At one point, I think he actually designed a better audio interface for the Sound Blaster because it was terrible. It was just fixing things because he could. Brilliant guy, but I don't.
It was like a super taster for audio, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So here's the thing: like the difference between codecs, the difference between bit rates, unless you're looking like top end to bottom end, the vast majority of us can't hear this. What we can hear though is spatial audio. So if you're looking at the lossless and going, well, it's not really lossless, nobody cares. Like really, you don't know. I'm gonna put money on it that you don't know. I might lose, but I'd still put money on it because it'd be a fun bet. But the spatial audio is a cool thing, and so I've been listening to this on Tidal, and that was sort of an ear-opening experience, if you will. And it's been phenomenal. Like it really just does open up the soundstage. I've got a massive 22-foot ceilings here, and it's difficult for Atmos to kind of work in this space, but it still sounds more full. And that's one of those things where I did do a double-blind test. Ray's very patient. So.
You're bringing up your person that you knew that had sort of that uncanny hearing. A guy that I knew was a jazz musician, and his name is Aaron, and he can actually hear. There's a noise for dogs when you go to a crosswalk. Before the noise comes for people with visual impairments to cross, there's a noise that only dogs can hear, and he can hear it. And I'm always like, what is your world like? How can you hear these things?
Can I tell you something really? So Destiny had a raid come back, the Vault of Glass. And inside this raid, they have these oracles that play one of 7 tones. And there's a guy who has perfect pitch who literally, first time he played the encounter, was able to figure out the whole thing in one go, whereas the rest of us were struggling of like, what was that? What was that? What was that? This guy was able to just ping it in one go. And it's that kind of audio identification where you're like, great. You are the people who are allowed to complain about this. You probably won't, but you're allowed. The rest of us can shop.
Well, I guess one of the things that seemed to choke some folks out there was the fact that the lossless audio was not supported by Apple's AirPods Pro Max. Is that what they're called?
Well,
and these the $500 plus over the ear headphones, very premium. Sorry,
they have to be wired.
Right, but even through the lightning cable, apparently you're still not getting it because it doesn't pass analog audio through the lightning cable. So do you think we're going to see a software update to this because Bluetooth doesn't have the bandwidth to support lossless? What about these people who are spending multiple hundreds of dollars on these high-end headphones?
Yeah, I mean, there is a DAC in the headphones from what I understand. So I would imagine it's probably capable of doing it. So at this point, it probably would be a software update. And the question is, like, why would they put that software into the headphones if this feature wasn't there yet? So it may just be a case of it catching up. These $800 Canadian AirPods Max are fantastic. Have you tried a pair of these? So I went into the Apple store and went through the whole sanitization process as they put these things on my ears. There's like a chamber you go through. I felt like ET. But they sound amazing. Like they sound like reach for your wallet. Maybe we're just like, no, we're not doing that today. This is not, nope, but I want to. So I'm asking for them for my birthday is what I'm doing. But here's the thing. And again, I'm looking at this and saying, these are $800 headphones. I've heard folks with $300 headphones who apparently they can identify these differences. But we've also got the Odyssey, where they're like $1,500, $3,000 headphones that are designed for this kind of thing. If you're really, really passionate about lossless audio, you're probably not listening on your AirPods Max right now. Maybe you're upset that you can't. But you're one of those like Pono-toting DAC guys that have got these things kind of strapped to your waist, where you should just be sitting down in your living room, like replaying the Memorex commercial.
Pour one out for Pono, Neil Young's lossless audio player.
The audio
player
had a
triangle shape, triangle cylinder. I don't even know what you call that shape. It's
a Toblerone shape.
A Toblerone, yes.
Yeah.
That's the technical term. Unfortunately, that didn't really go anywhere. But he's making a living criticizing other people's audio efforts in the meantime.
Yeah, just slip it in your triangle-shaped pocket and just hit the road. It'll be great.
Didn't we go to the launch of that? I feel like
I blocked it out.
There was one downtown. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So moving from ears to eyeballs, there's just when you thought there couldn't be any more innovation in the social media app ecosystem, there's a new one called Poparazzi. Now, this is important. It's Poparazzi with a P-O, not a P-A, because there's another app with P-A, the traditional spelling of paparazzi, available on the iOS App Store. That is not the one we're talking about. This is the Poparazzi P-O-P photo app, which is, apparently it bans selfies. So the whole point here is maybe to discourage some of our narcissistic tendencies by constantly using our selfie cameras. And what this app does is encourages you to take photos of your friends, other people's. Instead of, look at what I'm doing, it's like, look what my friends are doing. Aren't they cool? Tasia, do you see any future to the turning of the tables and on the narcissists in social media?
I love this idea so much. So they're not only discouraging the selfie, but there's no like count, there's no follower count. That's not what this is about. This is literally an app to quickly take a snap of what your friends are doing and it's posted. As opposed to traditional, when you're everything, the big joke is nothing on Instagram is real. Everything on Instagram is fake. It takes a lot of time to fake content on Instagram. So you're removing yourself from the moment. So really, how real is that? So their paparazzi's whole thing is, well, we don't want that. We want it. It's click, push, and it's out. And I mean, it's kind of cool because it encourages the friend groups to kind of do that and tag each other and share that way, instead of it's all about me and now let's edit this thing together and blah, blah, blah. And I think you're probably going to see a lot of creative people of course, anybody will game how to do this and how to like make money off this and become an influencer on Paparazzi. But it's going to be a really cool thing to see like how creative people like within the friends group work. The only thing I think is weird is like right now, if you download it, it automatically adds everybody in your contact list. And I do not like that. I am not here for it. So they're going to have to cut that and have it be you pick and choose who. I assume they're doing that because like, one, they want all these people to get a notification. Hey, are you on, like, so-and-so's on this app. You should get on this app too. And two, that's how you would like tag your friends. Like it's pulling from that, but you should give the user the choice. I think that's my only negative right now.
And that's the thing is like, I went to install it and, of course it needs access to your photos, access to your cameras. If they really wanted to be in the moment, they wouldn't even give you access to your photos and it would only be access to your camera. But I stopped at the wants access to your contacts because it's the same thing with Clubhouse. Companies early on that are reliant on your social graph. I mean, they play this kind of dirty game initially, not giving you any other option, but counting on new users' FOMO, because I don't want to miss out on the coolness of this app. I want to be on there early and get build my own following. And you're in exchange for that, you're handing over all your contacts, and who knows what they're getting from there that's being stored on their servers. So, you think, well, it's not just your privacy; it's the privacy of all your contacts, right?
Yes.
And pretty much every social app has done this. And then after a few months or a couple of years, once they've hit their stride, they've built critical mass, then they're a little softer when it comes to stuff like even LinkedIn did this stuff like this back in the day. So, I mean, that left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go there. I might wait a little longer before jumping on that train, because the history is littered with the corpses of attempts at variations on social app themes. Some of you may remember like Pear, which was just you and your significant others, and then there was I think Peach, which was you and like a small group of friends. You were limited to the number of friends you could, and a lot of these things have just gone by the wayside. So, I mean, I like what they're getting at here. Sort of switching things around a little, be a bit more authentic, more in the moment. It's your friends, not so much you, and we'll see where this goes.
I'm a little concerned about the contacts thing, because I have contacts on my phone for people that have been in my life but are no longer in my life. I really don't want my ex-wife getting a notification saying, hey, he's on, what is it, Paparazzi, come join. That's a little awkward for both of us.
Yeah.
Can we, no, hard no. One thing I do like here is remind men that they're photo-worthy too. Boys,
I know.
Your time to shine is now with Paparazzi. This is it. Finally,
only women take photos.
The other thing, just sort of two small points, and this is beyond the social media aspect, is that I know I sometimes forget this, but how much having a phone in our pocket has changed all of our lives and shaped the world. And one example I'll give, and I had a real sort of, I don't know if epiphany is the right word, but I love art galleries. And my childhood, we went to a lot of art galleries whenever we traveled, the Louvre and all this kind of stuff. I was in the National Gallery in London in 2018. And I hadn't been to a gallery maybe in 3 or 4 years, just, because of life situations and all that kind of stuff. And the thing that I was blown away by, instead of people sort of quietly, being respectful and standing a bit from the pictures and just looking at each of the works of art, they were going right up next to them and taking selfies next to it. And there's like a lineup of people taking selfies. It's just like, what is going on? And to your point, Tasia, about experiencing the world, right? Like not just being obsessed with like, okay, got it, next one, Van Gogh, okay, did it, and not even reading the write-up, just like, so, and a big lineup next to, there was a Van Gogh, I remember particularly, there was like a lineup of people to take photos next to it.
Yeah. They should ban cell phones there and use the amusement park style cameras, right? The ones on roller coasters, and you just gotta run in, and hopefully you got the right expression.
There was the Mona Lisa.
So, I mean,
you can actually just
think
put people on a track and run them through the museum, because you're not going to pay that attention anyway. So let's just get the shots, get you out.
Exactly. And I love the idea of the fact that it's taking the selfie away, but the fact that, and not to totally, trash on phones and that accessibility, because I had a cat pass away recently, and she had lived for quite a long period of time. And the interesting thing is you can tell there's like 8 to 10 photos before cell phone cameras started to come in, and all of a sudden there's like 700 photos after that. So there's like, oh, we have a lot of her from the last 10 years, but not the first 8.
So guilty. Guilty. Yep.
Speaking of guilty, I have to admit that when we were at, this was back in 2005, went to the Louvre and the Musée d'Orsay as well, I think, in Paris. It was most mainstream smartphones at the time, but I just had my pocket camera, and I took photos of a lot of the works of art just to remember them. But I was so smart, I thought, well, I'm also going to take photos of the little write-ups so I can go and refer to them later.
Nice.
Which is fine if you're going and like viewing things in sequence, but when you have the screensaver going on your Apple TV where photos are just random, it's like you just here's some art, and then here's some write-ups, totally disconnected from each other, out of order. So
the intent was good. It's just the execution. I'm going to blame the shuffle thing. You should be able to pair pictures together, chain them together.
Good point. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So
damn you, iPhoto.
Speaking of the damned, Microsoft Build 2021. Top 5 biggest announcements, apps, teams, and the future of Windows. Highlight this week's biggest announcements from Build 2021. Now, to be fair, we had Google I/O a couple of weeks ago, which tends to be, along with Apple's WWDC, which is next week, and someone here is going to be missing it, that both Google's and Apple's efforts have tended to be a bit more consumer friendly. Microsoft Build seems to still be a bit more developer-centric, because we all know, back from the Steve Ballmer days, what's Microsoft's priorities? 3 words.
Developers. And then I think you throw a chair.
Exactly. So more than 3 words, more like 17. If you're unfamiliar, go to YouTube, look for Steve Ballmer, developers, and it's a thing of beauty.
There's a 10-hour cut.
Oh my!
To help you sleep at night.
I could not handle that.
It's right between the Enterprise 10-hour cut, the work core, and the What's Going On He-Man 10-hour. Those sequence will drive anyone mad.
I like the Baron Zemo dancing for 10 hours. Have you seen that?
Oh, Falcon of Winter Soldier. That's a good one. Yeah. I think the developers rant, along with some death metal for 10 hours, would be good for truckers, in the late night haul, just like gonna get through the night. So, Graham, anything of note, anything to cherry pick here that might interest anyone?
Like looking at this, obviously, like we're looking at new implementations of .NET. They've got a new rendering engine for Microsoft Edge.
Best performing browser on Windows 10.
It is the fastest way to get Chrome, so that's...
You don't suck up to Tasia.
Windows Package Manager comes out of preview, so you can manage your packages. That's like this is all sysadmin stuff. Like they love this. And when we get down to Teams,
there we go, your favorite.
Yes, yeah. So this is great because it does a couple of things. Teams is a great new collaborative platform. Really kind of if you've got Office 365 or Microsoft 365, pardon me, it is included in there. So the idea there is kind of like what they did with Internet Explorer. So they're really looking to see if they can draw out another antitrust thing. They're really hoping for that, I think.
They're making hay while the focus is on Apple and Google and Facebook, right? They're just like behind the scenes. Like.
The best part about this is if you are running any sort of current gen Intel hardware, this will actually turn your computer into a space heater, which is fantastically energy efficient in the winter. I am so not looking forward to this in the next 2 months because, literally, you will feel the heat come off of this MacBook Pro. It's insane. You start it up, and literally, Teams starts up, and the fans start up right away. The fascinating thing is, over the course of the last 2 months, they finally put a way for users to prompt an upgrade on Teams. Up until that point, there was no way to drive an upgrade, and it was actually attached to your account. So that was the version level that you got. And so they were rolling out new versions to different accounts, which meant that there were features that you would talk to people and be like, well, it's just under the 3 dots. And like, I don't see it. Are you sure? And you have this like weird standoff with people. So they're working on some collaboration features across different platforms, which is the same sort of thing that they've done with Microsoft 365 and Office 365. I'm excited to see if they've actually managed to get the code to a place where it's stable and can run cool. I haven't had a ton of success with this. I mean, I'm not playing Tasia here, but the Google apps have been doing this better and faster and longer. So the thing is, like, the Microsoft stuff is more feature rich. Like, it is the desktop version kind of brought to the web. There are only a few features that I found that I don't have access to. So I'm fascinated to see if they're actually able to get Teams to be this collaborative hub between all of these apps. Because right now, it's not. I mean, the worst thing about Teams is in trying to be a Slack replacement, it does the thing that Slack does best the worst. Which is that text conversation. Teams video conversations, not bad. Sharing, not bad. Booking meetings, not bad. The chat is a dog's breakfast. And that's one of the things where, one of my business partners was trying to see if we could eliminate Slack, because Slack is not inexpensive for us. And I think he got from a cold dead hands from a couple of people. So.
Yeah, where Teams does excel is if you are an organization that uses multiple Microsoft 365 services. So if you integrate OneDrive into there, SharePoint into there, and so on, it can, it's a one-stop shop, and apparently popular with the K9 contingent. Now, if you're not on the Microsoft platform and you want to heat your space on an Intel processor, you can open Google Chrome and open 3 tabs.
I do find, though, having used Teams quite a bit previously, that it is confusing with the various ways of sharing documents too, and how that all works in terms of OneDrive and all that kind of stuff. I find that part is one of the parts that falls down the worst for me, and that it creates like folders, and it can be hard to locate them. And there's different folders for different types of cloud services, and they don't sort of go to all one hub. And it's not always clear when there's not sort of a convenient way of seeing what's shared with whom, or at least I found. Maybe some Microsoft guru knows better than I do, but I just found it very unsatisfying. That's just my personal.
OneDrive went from like a specific set of folders to now like mirroring my entire desktop.
Yes,
and I don't know when that happens, but the other day I dropped something on my desktop. It's like syncing. I'm like, to what?
No.
Yeah.
Which brings me to sort of the next part of the story here, which is the future of Windows. And I can't overstate the difference between macOS and Windows as far as updates go. Like, macOS feels like this smooth highway where it's just, you get on the on-ramp with the new operating system, and you're going to have a bunch of cool things that come on, join you on-ramps on the way. And yeah, there are going to be a couple little potholes along the way. Don't get the 0.0 version, wait till the 0.1. But it's smooth, it's simple, it's direct. You get a notification, here's the new version. It is like a 0.1. And then, I've got my Windows installation, which every single time it updates, it breaks something. The biggest one is the sound on my TV. I've got it plugged into a television, it disappears randomly anytime there's an update. And what do they even number these updates? Well, they're like
Graham,
2076.
Graham, wasn't the rule of Windows operating systems sort of like the original Star Trek movies? Every second one, every second one is good. Don't get the odd number ones because they're just going to crash or be complete.
So 95 was bad. 98 was good. 98 SC was bad. No, it was 95 was good. 98 was bad. 98 SC was good.
2000 was good.
Was bad.
Yeah.
2000 was good, but that was NT based, so.
Yeah. And then there was XP, which was good, and then there was XP Media Center Edition, which was bad.
7 was okay.
Yeah, well, Vista's in there
8, not so, Vista. Oh, wait, yeah, where's this? Anyhow.
That was the dark times. We tried
the dark times. So, well, the other aspect of the future of Windows is they're still also continuing to develop Windows on ARM. And for Mac users who have upgraded to M1 chips, that's one bit of functionality that easy functionality that you've lost is the ability to run into x86 versions of Windows on M1 Macs. So it's important, at least for people in the Windows ecosystem that want to eventually run ARM-based Windows machines, to have a nice, robust, stable version of Windows on ARM. And then also for M1 Mac users to have a good version of Windows on ARM as well, to be able to properly boot camp or run something in Parallels or in VMware Fusion.
It's got to really sting if you're one of the original Surface owners and you're seeing that it's the Mac that's actually getting Microsoft to take Windows on ARM seriously. That's got to sting.
And one other quick point, you'd mentioned, Will, the confusing nature of integrating some of these services and teams are accessing these things. Is you mentioned a GURU, having a Microsoft GURU, and that's one thing that Microsoft has done very well over the decades, is created an ecosystem that is can be monetized by legions of consultants, right? Mm-hmm. And they're things that are because they have so much legacy code and legacy software to support. I mean, they've bragged about being able to run apps that designed for Windows 95. That some of which you can run on Windows 10. I mean, you think about it, that's quite a feat. But think of all the cruft that is accumulated in the operating system over those decades to be able to maintain that compatibility. Apple, not better or worse, has decided to take a different tack, and they're happy to kill their darlings as time goes on. But then you lose access to those apps unless you're running again in virtual machines.
DOS goes all the way back.
All the way back.
I will say that you can run HyperCard apps on Mac OS, so.
Inside, what is it, VMAC, the virtual machine, or something like that? Anyhow, speaking of Apple, when everyone's zigging, they're zagging. Apple reveals plans for more retail stores, despite shift to online sales. On our online site, people can learn a lot about the products. In a store, they can touch them and get a feel for them. Hey, Tasia, do you like this? You stick with online, or what do you think about the in-store experience?
I despise Apple stores, generally. That's the most gentle way I could say it. It's like a cult. I will say the one near me, I had a wonderful experience there. However, I had ordered it online, kind of prepaid for them, and was just needed to talk to somebody to pick them up. So it was a really nice experience. But generally, they scare me because I feel like I'm walking into the cult of blue shirts, and people are like, oh, look at this. We're like monkeys. Look at this. Look what this does. And they're just zoned out on these products. So I don't know. I despise Apple stores. I like Apple, but I despise the stores. I don't know. They're clinical. No?
Well, anytime I think of an Apple store,
yeah, they're heavy on the bleach right now.
Yeah. Anytime I think of an Apple store, I think of that scene from, I think it's Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yeah.
And the genius that comes up to them, and after he helps Black Widow, and Captain America goes, "I've been Aaron." I just always think of that.
So, funniest thing, one of the guys at the Metrotown Apple Store, his name is Sam Sung. And so I have a card from the Apple Store of Sam Sung.
I do not believe that.
It's true. I'll see if I can find the story here. But I've got one hanging around here somewhere. Here's the thing. I like shopping online. I still go into the Apple Store to pick up stuff that I want from Apple. I bought my Apple Pencil online because I wanted it engraved, but if I'm going in for a watch band or something like that, I want to see it. So I want to, and there's no other shopping experience quite like it. The closest thing is the boutique stores like the Bay, but there's less, some people might disagree, but there's less arrogance in an Apple store. It does feel like they're genuinely there to help you. It feels like they actually want to be there. Having worked retail for 8 years, I can tell you, most retail employees don't want to be there. So what they've done there is kind of a miracle. And when you think about the stores themselves, there's some cool stuff going on, right? They've everything from the magnetic lock cash registers to using iPhones as their point of sale. They've got this whole almost like consumers distributing style. When you send for a product, it goes to the back and somebody comes back out with it, and there's this ceremony where they hand this off in these cool bags. It's a different way of shopping, and that's cool for me. The big one here is my parents, right? The idea that they could go into a store and actually talk to somebody who is not really I don't believe they're commissions, but can kind of get the real answers that they need. I trust the Apple Store with my mom and dad. I'm not sure I could say that with any other electronics store. Having worked in one, there's just there's not many places where I feel like I could send my parents and I would feel good about what it is that they would get. And so I'm looking at this and seeing like there's a whole generation of people right now who may have fluent on iPhone, but are they fluent on what comes next? Probably not. So they're going to need to have some shepherds to bring them into the valley of the shadow. I don't know. I don't know where that metaphor is going, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think too, Grab, I mean, a few of us have some experience with retail chains. And I mean, I think I was in training for a major retail chain at one point doing web training. And, one of the things is that I found, at least the company I worked for, talked a good game about being customer centric. But at the end of the day, a lot of the best practices went out the window when you're actually in the store. I will agree with you. My experience with Apple Store has been much better than some retail chains. There was actually a story that we had to bump from a few weeks ago that was actually about someone with Alzheimer's that went into a source, or at least this was the side of the story, and he had gone in to buy TV and ended up with a tablet and a phone and 2 cell phone plans and everything but a TV, and a digital cable box for a TV that he didn't have, because the source also is it Bell or Rogers, one of the big cell phone ones. I mean, as someone who's been in retail and done training, like, we don't know the other person's side of the story for sure, but I know where they're coming from. I can see the bad behavior. I've heard a lot about bad retail behavior, and that, smells like a...
That one rang true. That one rang true. Yep. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about what Apple is doing here, there's echoes of about 20 years ago when they launched the Apple stores initially. Some of you may remember Gateway Computers had their retail side, and they were in the process of shutting stores down, and e-commerce was just starting to go a little bit mainstream, and people are like, what is Apple doing here? I mean, this is not the iPhone era Apple. This is the iPod and Mac era Apple, and so they still had a long ways to come, but they felt that this was the best way to be able to present their products, as opposed to a couple of crashed Macintosh Performa 6400s in the corner at a Best Buy, right? Mm-hmm. So again, everything's going e-commerce, but I think where this becomes really important is when Apple launches new product lines, like the Apple Watch, and being able to have that concierge service, being able to present products to people, demonstrate them, and let them try them on, and so on. In a few years, are we going to be seeing AR glasses, VR products, other sorts of things that will really benefit from the demonstration, the hand-holding, and all the in-store classes that they do at Apple stores as well? So, I mean, all you have to do is look at their success so far, and compare it to the success or lack thereof of even like the Microsoft stores, right? I mean, they're shutting down Microsoft stores. I'm not sure how the Samsung stores are doing it, but the model has been emulated with varying degrees of success, and Apple is doubling down at a time when a lot of people are thinking, well, maybe we should just go with it online only, because when's the next pandemic going to come?
It's interesting because Microsoft just couldn't seem to make it work. It felt like throwing spaghetti against the wall. And those stores were also beautiful, and they had great products in them, and it just seemed like there was a level of organization that wasn't there. And I wanted to like them. Like their whole Xbox section was great, but it didn't seem to be able to pull people in, and I don't... it's pheromones.
Because they're not the cool cousin. That's why.
Was Justin Long really that cool?
Cool cousin.
Like, really, when you look at those two, was Justin Long really that cool? He was cool-ish. I guess he wasn't like a stuffed shirt, but I don't think he was
At
cool.
the time, he was cool.
Oh, okay.
I think. They made him cool.
I want to go back to like 2006 and be like, so what were we thinking? Says the guy with a video camera on his shirt. I don't know.
Yeah.
So when you're ordering products online and having them delivered to your home, is that home going to be a smart home of the future, according to IKEA, who just showed off 4 wild concepts that show what a futuristic IKEA-designed smart home might look like, integrating augmented reality to make smart homes less intimidating and more trustworthy. And when you see some of the screenshots here, it's like, oh, you can hold up your phone and have labels on things in front of you. This reminds me a little bit of the original Microsoft Service table demos, where you could drop a device on the table and like a camera on the table, and the photos would spell out because it would recognize them through NFC and whatnot. That didn't really come to fruition, but Surface, translated itself into a number of other touch products over the years. So this is kind of a similar idea, except instead of being flat on the surface, this is in 3D space all around you.
But
Tasia,
why?
Well, yeah. Look at it. Look at all these things, Tasia. Don't you want to live in an IKEA smart home?
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt there, TJ, but why?
You tell me.
The Ryan Reynolds ask, but why?
You tell me.
I'm in my home. What do I need it augmented for? I'm here in 3D reality right now. Like, I don't understand what is happening right now.
Do you remember what that speaker does? Well, it's a speaker. Oh.
You can have little gelatinous friends standing on your chair's arm.
This totally reminded me of being at CES with like the happy fork and stuff like that. Like, okay, I guess you were able to do it.
Well, and this little animation just looks like viral droplets going into the air, spewing our COVID virus. That's all this looks like. I don't even know what I'm looking at.
So, to be fair, what we're looking at there is isn't that the sound bubbles, which imagines using AI up to cord off sound parts of the home, and I don't even know. I was in an IKEA yesterday, and I get PTSD every time I go in when I feel like I can't escape. But now they're going to be designing our future home. So
I thought sound traveled in waves, not bubbles.
Well, it's it's kind of like photons. Are they waves or are they particles?
I like the talking blob, but to Tasia's point, I don't know how or why we would use that, but it's kind of cool to have an avatar for
What the hell is that?
It's a way to challenge people to use, integrate, and to remake these technologies. We were
okay, fine. We're gonna get out of the stores. We're gonna leave home, and we're gonna hop into a Tesla, and we're gonna play with a high-powered PC gaming PC.
Yes.
Right, Graham?
Yes.
While we're driving.
Powered by AMD. Why are we doing this? What's going on? We've got 10 teraflops of RDNA 2, whatever that is.
I don't know. I actually closed the tab here, so give me just half a second. I've done that twice now. Production value.
Exactly. Remember when Elon Musk claimed you'd be able to play The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 on a 10 teraflop gaming rig he's stuffing into the new Tesla Model S and Model X? Well, AMD is officially providing the guts. And they revealed recently that the new Tesla infotainment system consists of an AMD Ryzen processor with its own integrated graphics paired with a discrete AMD RDNA 2 GPU. So, what?
Was anybody looking at the Tesla and thinking, I need something in this machine that's going to drain the battery faster?
Seriously.
And, Elon, Cyberpunk doesn't work on anything.
Along with prices.
CDPR right now is like, my feelings.
Game. Yeah. I love the look of that game, but buggy.
I bought it, I didn't install it. I heard the things, and I'm like, I'll come back to it. I didn't want to sell you the experience, so I'm just waiting until the Game of the Year edition.
Again, I'm just going to ask why. Like when I'm driving my vehicle, that's my task. I'm so tired of this distracted everything. And I know their whole thing is it's only going to work when it's parked, or I don't even know, or that's what they were saying at least. But it's like, I'm not that bored that I'm crawling out of my freaking skin at a stoplight that I immediately need to check another screen. I am surrounded by screens all day. You know what? Maybe I'll just stare off into nature. Maybe I'll just focus on what's happening in front of me. I'm so tired of this.
Well, what if you're in BC in the summertime? We had a three sailing wait for BC ferries.
You might be alone with your thoughts for more than 30 seconds. That would be scary.
Yeah.
What about 3.5 hours?
This is all PR, right? Like this is pure PR. It's an $80,000 car that you're sticking a computer in. And Elon knows what he's doing, and I imagine he talked AMD into this. Guys, this is gonna be great. We're gonna pump our tires, and we'll get the stock price up. This is nonsense.
And then we'll put one on Mars.
And this is the thing. Again, going back to Future Shop, we used to have people come in and install PlayStations and whatnot into their video entertainment systems all the time, and you would see these folks who would have these things, and it was almost like you could tell that they really regretted it because it really didn't add any value to their life. It was just sort of this. Yeah, I got a PlayStation 2 in here. Cool.
The other thing,
I need to go to the corner store.
it always strikes me too as Elon is like a 12-year-old boy. Like it's just some of these things, like the flamethrower. And I was watching a video that he was talking about the Cybertruck with the bulletproof glass, and that you could put a gun turret on the back if you wanted to, and putting a video game system into a car. Like, he's just a 12-year-old boy that didn't grow up, right?
And maybe that's okay. Like maybe we need
it is
that in the
okay,
tech
but
world.
it's
maybe,
just
maybe
funny.
we don't need all the cynicism. But here's the thing: I'm not going to give you a hard time if you buy it. But it's also like, is this aspirational for the vast majority of people? Probably not. There's probably a percentage of a percentage.
Well,
But it's just like, it's
I rise in
cool.
my Tesla. Great.
I mean, you can't win them all.
Dogecoin.
Yeah, he did revolutionize, electric transportation. So you can't win them all.
Absolutely. I mean,
You got some big hits, you got some big misses.
Well, and here's the thing: along the way, he did a bunch of stuff like this, which is purely press moves. This is not a criticism of that. It's just an identification of it. If it works, it works. And for him, it's working. So the only thing that I'd say is, like looking at Mr. Musk as we go through here, is just keep that in mind when he's talking about things. Know that there are going to be some things that are absolutely revolutionary and some things that they have worked so hard on. And all of the teams at SpaceX and Solar City, they've done all of this work. And some things are literally just, we need to be in the news today because we haven't been in the news for a while.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And I imagine they've got, you know how Trump had those manila folders that were full of nothing? I'd imagine that Elon actually has a manila folders full of press ideas of like, what crazy thing, can we stick a car in space? Yeah, why not? Okay, do it.
Yeah.
There we are.
I'm waiting for the amphibious version. So Tasia, if Elon is so revolutionary with the EVs, why is the car that you lust for a 2021 Chevrolet C8 Corvette with 495 horsepowers and 470 pound-feet of torque from a 6.2 liter V8 engine, starting at just $111,363 US. Why wouldn't you get a Porsche Cayman, Porsche Boxster, McLaren GT, McLaren 570S, Ferrari 488, Lamborghini Huracan, Audi R8, or an Acura NSX? Why would you get a Corvette for over 100 G's?
So, yeah, I think y'all will correct me if I'm wrong. This is their most expensive car. Like, typically, one of my things for God, look, that is sex on, I'm sorry, that is sex on wheels.
I'm aroused.
It's almost too much, truly. Oh, God. So, but like, this was part of the shtick and part of the reason why, I love this too. But Corvette to me was always like the affordable sports car. The affordable, sexy car that you could actually attainable for people. And obviously this is not quite as attainable. It is the price of a home in some places, but look at her. Why wouldn't you?
All right.
Like, if you had the money, here's my only critique is I feel like because of the power, because even some of them that are like, don't have as much juice, like they want to go. You know what I mean? So if you're doing city driving, or if you're not really on a racetrack every day, if you're like it feels like you're almost not doing her justice because they just want to take off. So, but gosh, do I ever want to test drive one of those?
They really did nail the aesthetics this time around. We had the opportunity to see at 2015 CES. I can't remember which generation of Corvette.
It was like the Z06, I think we saw.
And that was nice, but this, it pales in comparison to the lines on this one. I think they really nailed the aesthetics there. So we'll give Tasia a chance to cool down here. And,
I have to turn my air conditioning down.
Just want to give a quick little accessibility shout out. This was something that came across my desk in just the last couple of days. And the video is actually from last summer, but it's a great peek into the world of those who are blind or even just somewhat visually impaired. And you might ask yourself, how do these sorts of folks use computers, use smartphones, and so on? Well, there is a YouTuber named Christy Veers, who has shared a number of videos about how she uses her technology, and it's quite illuminating. There's obviously the voice controls, but there is the voice feedback from the phone. On the iPhone is something called voice over. There's the how you tap the device, how it reads back to you as you're typing and so on. It's quite fascinating. And if you've ever wondered about, if people who can't see, how do they use devices like an iPhone, I'd really encourage you to check this out. She's got all sorts of great videos on her channel where she talks about new releases as well, the AirPods and JBL earbuds and AirTags and so on. Last week was Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We did touch on some accessibility last week, but check out, especially we'll have the link in the show notes, how proficiently and quickly she's able to do things that, it's easy to think that, you have take pity on some of those poor people, they can't see or they can't hear or they can't walk or what have you. Thanks to the prioritization of accessibility features, which we've discussed in the past, can help any of us should we have some sort of condition or injury, be it temporary or permanent. All this research and companies like Google and Apple doing this kind of stuff pays dividends for all sorts of people. And you can have people with YouTube channels talking about how they use computers blind. So any of you had a chance to check this stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because actually I first saw Christy when I was working on the app show for AMC. And because it was actually a show that was focused on apps for people who are blind and low vision, and so it was fascinating. I mean, like obviously, her video content has just kind of blown up, which is really great. Like it's great to see that she's getting that kind of traction.
And Tasia, you worked on that very same show as well too.
Yeah, I worked on App TV, and it was, like we really take for granted what we could do on our devices when we're sighted. And so for both iPhone and Android, I would have to go through all the accessibility features. And like, man, I really took for granted, like, all those extra taps that you do, like it's great, but like, she's so quick. I was so slow and I'd be like, oh, it was so crazy, but she's just, and it just gets, hopefully over time, everything just gets better too, and I think the coolest thing for me was like, not just the accessibility on how to use the devices, but, safety features for when you're out in the real world, when you're walking down the street, when you're using a map, when you're trying to figure out which direction you are, where you're going, what's in front of you, what's behind you, it's so important. And it's just so easy for us to not give it a second thought. And we really should.
Indeed. A couple rapid fire things we're going to blast through here. And we're going to throw to Will. We've got some 80s nostalgia animation happening. He-Man reboot on Netflix, a Masters of the Universe revelation, and then also a Snake Eyes movie coming out. Will, what do you have to tell us about these?
Well, I mean, I'm very interested about the He-Man animated, just because that's near and dear to my heart as an 80s kid. But I have to say the one that I'm super keen about is Snake Eyes. I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe. We'll wait and see. A lot of people out there are a little disappointed in the G.I. Joe community about this.
There's a community.
There is a community. Histank.com is the leading blog. And one of the things, this to me is like a lot of trailers where people nitpick it having not even seen the movie. So people are mad, or there's some people are mad on principle that Snake Eyes talks. He doesn't talk in the comic books. He doesn't talk in the animated series. So what I'd have to say is, let's just wait and see. That's
Perhaps
not.
There's a reason why he stops talking.
Exactly.
Shocker.
Exactly.
A new accessibility feature in his gear?
Yeah,
everything from a vow of silence to a bad punch to the throat. Like, there's going to be something, right? But, your main star not talking for an entire film. We tried that for the first 10 minutes of Up, and I ended up in tears. So let's,
Yeah. We didn't get to see Carl Urban's face in all of Dread.
Fair.
Crickets.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then what's MODOK?
MODOK.
MODOK? Is that an old thing, or is that brand new?
It's
a mental organism designed only for killing?
Yes. Now, sometimes the K varies, but killing is one of the...
And this is a Marvel thing.
It is a Marvel thing. It goes way back. This is Stan Lee, I believe, wrote it. And he is one of the main people behind AIM. There's various people, Scientist Supreme and other characters in the comic books. This is bizarre.
Advanced Idea Mechanics, by the way. That was the
Advanced
bad
Idea
guys in
Mechanics.
Iron Man 3. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Now, this is very bizarre. The animation is, I believe, done by some of our friends who did Robot Chicken and a few other things. The humor is quite similar. It's Patton Oswalt is sort of he's the lead voice, and he's one of the sort of masterminds behind it. Also, if you're a Saturday Night Live fan, was it Beck Beckerman? Is
Beck
one
Bennett,
of the voices.
yeah.
Yeah, Beck Bennett. That's what it is, Beck Bennett. He's great in it. It's dark. I'm just going to warn you. I actually couldn't find it on my Disney Plus, and then I realized that I've been set to the privileges of children, and it didn't come up. So so this is rated R. So the point is not only that I had to change my settings, and that's a good thing that I did that, but also not for children. Don't be mistaken by this being cartoony or being sort of stop motiony. Not for children.
Duly noted. And last of all, we would be remiss to not check in with Tasia and see what she's got. She's got 2 projects this week for us.
Oh yeah, so I did a video on the iOS 14.6 update, which I go into a little bit more detail kind of on everything we talked about now, like all the features, if you should update and all that kind of stuff. And then I also gave birth last week. I don't know if you guys know, but Mama is the proud new mama to a little baby podcast.
Aww.
And I felt left out. Everybody had one but me. So it's called Talk Techie to Me. I'm going to start it bi-weekly. And it's basically my layman's approach to tech. So what's going on in tech and how it affects you in ways you can understand.
And where can people learn more?
They can head to my website, tasiacustodi.com/Talk Techie to Me podcast. Or
Awesome.
on any of my socials, you can find links.
All the socials. And there'll be links in the show notes. And if you want to learn more about Momentous, find us at momentous.tv, facebook.com/momentous.tv, twitter.com/momentous.tv, instagram.com/momentous.tv. And, we even have a LinkedIn page. There's nothing there yet, but, feel free to check us out there. And, you can even find us on YouTube if you try real hard. I forgot to do all that stuff last week because we went so long, but we got it in this time, and we're just over an hour. Thanks so much, Gray Williams, Tasia Custodi, William Silver. We will see you next week.